When you're scrolling through endless listings of 15 HP air compressors, it's easy to feel like you're chasing a mirage. The photos show a sleek metal box with massive hoses, the specs scream 50 CFM at 175 PSI, and the price tag looks like a good deal. Then you finally get it home, hook it up, and realize the unit needs a 3-phase outlet, the tank drains faster than you thought, and the noise level makes the whole garage feel like a construction site. I've been there, and that's why I'm doing this deep dive, to help you avoid that kind of disappointment before you spend a big chunk of money. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the Ingersoll Rand 7100 E15P is marketed as a fully packaged electric compressor, and that phrase actually means something useful. The package comes with the motor, the 15 HP drive, a 30-gallon steel tank, and a maintenance kit that includes the oil, filter, and a few essential tools. That's a step up from the bare unit you see on a lot of generic brands, where you have to hunt down a separate tank and oil kit. For a workshop that wants to get up and running quickly, that all-in-one approach saves you a few trips to the hardware store and cuts down on the guesswork of matching components. Who should consider this machine? If you run a small auto body shop, a woodworking studio, or you're a serious DIYer who regularly inflates large tires, runs pneumatic sanders, or does spray painting, the 15 HP motor and 50 CFM flow rate give you the breathing room you need for continuous operation. The 175 PSI rating means you can power most standard pneumatic tools without the compressor hunting for pressure, which translates to smoother finishes on paint jobs or steadier sanding without the motor stalling. And because it's a stationary unit, you're not dragging a portable compressor around the shop, which reduces wear on hoses and connectors. On the flip side, if you're a hobbyist who only needs to inflate bike tires or run a nail gun a few times a week, you're probably overpaying for power you'll never tap. The unit runs on a 200-volt single-phase circuit, which means you'll need a dedicated outlet or a 200V breaker installed by an electrician if your garage only has standard 120V outlets. That installation cost can easily add another couple of $100s to the total outlay, and it's a barrier for people who just want a plug-and-play solution. In that case, a smaller 5 HP, 30 CFM model on 120V would make more sense. Now let's talk about the day-to-day experience. When you first fire it up, the motor has a noticeable low rattle hum that's louder than a residential refrigerator but far quieter than many industrial compressors I've heard. The noise level sits in the 70 decibel range, which is tolerable if you wear ear protection, but it's still something you'll notice if you're trying to have a conversation across the shop. The tank itself refills to full pressure in about 3 minutes after a full dump, which is respectable for a 30-gallon size. That means if you're doing a long run of spray painting, you won't be forced to pause every few minutes to let the pressure climb back up. One practical strength that often gets glossed over is the included maintenance kit. Ingersoll Rand's oil-lubricated design isn't a set-and-forget piece of equipment. You'll need to change the oil and replace the filter periodically. Having the correct oil, a filter, and a wrench that matches the drain valve right out of the box removes the guesswork and ensures you're using the manufacturer-approved consumables. In real life, I've seen users neglect oil changes and end up with noisy operation and reduced lifespan. With this kit, the routine becomes a quick 5-minute task that you can slot in at the end of a workday. Speaking of lifespan, the motor is a heavy-duty, cast-iron unit that feels solid when you tap it. The bearings are sealed, which reduces the need for frequent greasing, and the motor's thermal overload protection kicks in if you push it beyond its continuous duty rating. In practice, that means you can run a sander or a grinder for an hour straight without the compressor overheating, something that cheaper models can't promise. However, the trade-off is weight. The whole unit sits on a steel base and tips the scales at around 500 pounds. Moving it isn't a casual lift. You'll need a forklift or at least a pair of strong helpers if you ever need to reposition it. Another practical weakness is the lack of a built-in pressure gauge that's easily readable from the floor. The gauge is mounted on the tank side, which is fine when you're standing next to the unit, but if you're working on a project across the shop you have to walk over to see the pressure. Some users install a remote digital gauge, which adds a little extra cost but dramatically improves usability. It's not a deal breaker, just something to be aware of if you value having a quick readout without moving. Let's run through A.